Hi, welcome back to AR Films. Today we'll be analysing a film through a postmodern lens. A postmodernist film is a film that reflects the ideas of postmodernism through the medium of cinema. A postmodernist film attempts to subvert the mainstream conventions of narrative structure and characterization, and test the audience's suspension of disbelief. Characteristics in postmodernism include irony, intertextuality, temporal distortion, hyperreality, magical realism, and so many more. Postmodernism is notoriously hard to define. Synecdoche, New York is an American postmodern drama film, written and directed by Charlie Kaufman and starring Philip Seymour Hoffman. The plot follows an ailing theatre director, Hoffman, as he works on an increasingly elaborate stage production whose extreme commitment to realism begins to blur the line between fiction and reality. Interestingly, the film's postmodern structure positions the audience within the structure of the narrative to be part of a whole. In this video, I will be specifically analysing postmodern tenets such as hyperreality, magical realism, and temporal distortion. One main theme in this movie is temporal distortion. This is essentially the removal of traditional narrative timeline constraints that would be seen in modernism. Time seems to move much faster than the audience would expect. This element is presented through dialogue, mise-en-scene, and diegetic sounds coming from radios and stereos. The movie starts with a scene of Caden and his family going through what seems like an everyday morning. However, small details show the audience through a combination of close-up shots, dates on newspapers, expiration dates on milk cartons, as well as diegetic sounds coming from the radio.
Happy Halloween, Schenectady.
Taking us from
22nd of September
all the way to November 2nd, in all what seems like a day. Time in the movie is very compressed, and this becomes more apparent as we progress. When Hazel, one of Caden's love interests, asks him to come back to her place, Caden claims that his wife is merely on vacation, and that she's only been gone for a week, when in fact it's been a year.
You want to come over to my place called Tars?
Dell is only on vacation.
She hasn't called since she left. It's been a year.
It's been a week.
Further into the movie, when Caden begins to direct his play, he is confronted by one of the cast members, claiming that it's been 17 years, when only 10 minutes ago he had just thought of the concept.
What? When are we going to get an audience in here? It's been 17 years.
So why is this technique used? In a modernist film, time is used as a crutch for characters' growth and progression. But if time's going too fast for the characters to learn from their mistakes, then they can't grow. With a postmodern approach, Caden's perception of time is going so fast that his reality becomes distorted. Things such as his daughter and his wife leaving him, or his obsession with his own death, converge, disrupting his own narrative. One reason why this film is so complicated is due to its use of magical realism. This is the introduction of fantasy or impossible elements into an otherwise normal narrative. The first time we see this dreamlike state in the movie is a tracking mid-shot of Hazel and a real estate agent as they walk through a house that Hazel is interested in purchasing.
I never thought I'd buy a house alone. But you know, I'm 36 and I wonder what it is I'm waiting for.
Before this scene, almost every aspect of the film is realistic and almost under-exaggerated, with little colour and realistic reactions. However, this house is a pivoting point. The house itself is bright yellow, contrasting the dull houses standing next to it. The mid-shot of the two walking through the house shows us the inside of the house, where there's a fire that no one seems to be worried about. This technique may have been used to show Caden and Hazel's relationship through iconography. Hazel represents the catalogue of women that Caden has used as a muse throughout his career, the house being a magical realist depiction of the permanent danger the muse has to be exposed to in order to be around the artist. Ironically, it is this decision to live together that kills the muse, but inspires Caden, who experiences an epiphany of how he will execute the plot of the play. Furthermore, Caden's first daughter, Olive, is depicted through a series of over-the-shoulder and point-of-view shots, shows the two speaking as Olive lies on her deathbed. After a confusing and emotional conversation, we find that Maria, Caden's wife's friend, and Adele, Caden's wife, had fed Olive a series of lies about Caden, that he had left Olive.
Your mother, Maria, took you away. I've tried for years to find you. I didn't leave you.
And that he had had an affair with a man named Eric.
I'm not a homosexual.
She also mentions that her flowers are wilting as she approaches death, and when she unfortunately does pass away, we see a petal falling off her arm. Analysing this from a postmodern lens, this is a use of magical realism, since this fairy tale-like element is placed in an otherwise normal scene. The dying flower is an obvious iconography for the themes of death that we see throughout the film. From previous scenes, we know that she's had these tattoos since she was 11, and that the tattoos were in fact Maria's idea.
She's tattooed. She's tattooed. They had her tattooed.
I did that. Olive is my first.
She's a 4-year-old. She's a 4-year-old.
She's almost over 11.
An 11-year-old with tattoos is very unusual and borderline child abuse, and shows the toxic influence that Adele and Maria have on young Olive. The tattoos could be a representation of the poison and toxic lies that Maria fed Olive, like how the tattoos are poisoning her delicate skin. Hyperreality in postmodernist terms is the inability for the brain to distinguish between fiction and authenticity. Kaufman achieves this in the film by burying Caden in his masterpiece, and blurs the line between the reality of the deteriorating world outside and the world that is contained within the ever-expanding warehouse. Caden even goes as far as to hire doppelgangers as his cast and crew members. This complicates the distinction between reality and fantasy as the audience begins to question who is who. For example, the character of Sammy Barnathan is hired to play Caden, and Sammy's lookalike is hired to play Sammy. As a result of this hyperreality found throughout the film, Caden is set on a constant self-realization.
Wonderful, God bless. I guess you'll have to discover your real self.
Caden learns his true personality and becomes more conscious of himself when he hires Sammy to play the character of Caden in the play. This is mainly noted through Caden's revival of his relationship with Hazel, as his rekindling was only triggered by Sammy's, while playing Caden's, interest in Hazel.
Sammy.
Ultimately, postmodernism's true goal was to help individuals learn about who they are through their interactions with others. Sammy tries to teach Caden about empathy by saying that he's only ever cared about himself, and instead asks him to watch my heart break before jumping to his own death.
I've watched you forever, Caden, but you've never really looked at anyone other than yourself. So watch me. Watch my heart break. Watch me jump. Sammy, come down!
Caden admonishes Sam's corpse, once again making the scene about himself.
Sammy! I didn't jump, Sammy! A man stopped me before I jumped! Get up! I didn't jump.
Caden comes to learn the film's tagline.
There are millions of people in the world, and none of those people is an extra.
This move from subjectivity to objectivity and empathy is a fundamental tenet in postmodernism's purpose, and one which finally allows characters in a film to help them understand the failures they experience in their own life. A two-divorced, child-estranged, collapsed health disaster. In conclusion, Synecdoche, New York is a fantastic film with immense concentration to detail. It's hard to ignore the parallel themes the movie has to the postmodern theory. I really enjoyed this movie despite its confusing plot and enjoyed analysing it through a postmodern lens.